How is everyone doing? I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV. Welcome to the match preview of our upcoming game tomorrow at 8 PM against Malmo in the round of 16 in the Europa League. That was such a mouthful, I don't even know why I said it like that. But you guys, if you enjoy the content, smash that like button. Help me get more than 500 likes for today's video. And don't forget to press the bell notification button as well to stay tuned to all things Blue Lions TV. Now, when I do my match previews, I like to break it down into 3 segments. I start off by giving my thoughts and opinions on the press conference. Then I give my thoughts and predictions on the predicted lineup for the game tomorrow. And I end things by talking about the tactics of the game, what to expect from our opponents, and how we can potentially beat them as well. Anyway, getting straight into things, starting with the press conference review. Sarri did confirm that Loftus-Cheek has had another issue with his back. And it's one thing that I've been saying for a very long time. Ruben's in a very delicate position right now. You can't really stress his back and really potentially aggravate his injury further by rushing him back into first team football. I personally feel that if he was fully fit, Sarri would be using him, because before Ruben had his first injury, he was starting to get used a lot more. Let's hope that he's going to be fully fit for the game on Monday. When Sarri was questioned in regards to the players' motivation levels in that 6-0 defeat to Man City, Sarri said that no, actually the players were very motivated, but what happened was mental weaknesses cost the game. And I do agree with Sarri when it does come to this. I think that whenever this team faces any kind of adversity, let's say if there's any setback in the game, they revert to type, they don't continue with the system, and it's quite frustrating that this constantly keeps happening. When Sarri was questioned in regards to his comments about Roman Abramovich and the lack of communication, he actually admitted that, well, it's not that we never talk, it's the fact that we don't talk as much. Normally I speak to Marina. For the second part of the press conference, Pedro was in attendance and he was questioned in regards to that 6-0 defeat to Man City. He said that, is Sarri correct when it comes to the fact that he feels like there's a lot of mental weaknesses with the team? And Pedro was saying the most PR boring answers, so to be honest, I'm not really going to delve into that. What I am going to be delving into is the predicted lineup part for today's video. As you guys can see on the left hand side, I've taken an educated guess in regards to the potential lineup for tomorrow. Now, when I was picking this team, I was thinking we're playing Man United on Monday. Sarri's going to be thinking about that game. So I think the Malmo game's a perfect opportunity to make some very smart rotational choices. Of course, Emerson is going to be starting because Alonso hasn't travelled with the team. I see Christensen returning back into the team, hopefully to play alongside David Luiz. Now for the right hand side, ideally, I would like to see Zappacosta playing, but something tells me that we are going to see Aspi down the right hand side. Obviously Kepa in goal, and because of Ruben's injury concerns, it means that of course he's not going to be playing. So I expect to see Barkley continuing to play as a number 8, Kante to play alongside him. And I think that for the game tomorrow, it makes a lot of sense to use Kovacic as the regista instead of Jorginho, because obviously we do have Man United on Monday. Now when it comes to the selection for the front 3, I'm being very ambitious, I understand that. But for me, it should be Hazard, Higuain and Hudson-Odoi. I think it makes sense to win the first game in the first leg, because that way we can focus on much more concerning matters in future games. I think that Giroud might play a part in the game, but I don't see him starting it. I think that he might be the substitution for Higuain. Something tells me that Sarri is going to use Willian down the left hand side and maybe use Hudson-Odoi down the right, but I think it's best to win the game. I want to see Hazard play. He can come off around the 60th minute to be replaced. I think when it comes to this team's current struggles, when it comes to scoring goals, we really need to approach this game tomorrow very offensively, because we know that Malmo are going to be extremely defensive. But anyway, it's time to move on to the tactical preview, starting with Malmo. I'm going to give you guys an understanding of what type of tactical system I think Malmo are going to use against us. Now, Malmo are managed by Uwe Rosler. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He used to be the ex-manager of Wigan City, and of course he managed them during their infamous win over Man City in the League Cup, but they did beat them 2-1. Since he signed for Malmo, he's like to have them playing in a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2. And Rosler does share the same principles to football as Jurgen Klopp when it comes to that game style pressing, being very aggressive, keeping your shape, and obviously focusing on a lot of counter pressing. But for the game tomorrow, they won't be playing in that style of manner. The manager said it themselves today, stating that Normally we like to play this style of football, but against a team like us who are very good at pressing, it's going to be a major risk. He also stressed that it's important that we press in the right areas, knowing where they're going to press and how to play out of it. Now, what could be the areas that Malmo are hoping to exploit us in? Rosler did give us a bit of a indication in regards to how they're going to set up against us, and he told us to cast our minds back to Bournemouth's 4-0 win over us. He stated that Malmo are stylistically quite similar to Bournemouth. Now, how are Malmo going to set up defensively? That's going to be quite simple. They're going to set up as every single team does, with deep defensive, compact low blocks where they want to keep their organisation, and they're going to be extra disciplined to make sure that players aren't going to wander off. Will they man mark Jorginho? Well, yeah, of course they are, but I don't think they're going to do it the same way other teams do. I think they're going to find a different way to do that, because of course with a team like Malmo, they can't really be too gung-ho on the counter-attack because they are going to get picked off. So they need to find a process where they get the best of both worlds. And what I see them doing is, of course, they use a 3-5-2. One of the strikers will stick close to Jorginho, and the other striker is going to position himself between our two central defenders. Now, why could they potentially do this? Well, that's because they want to make it hard for us to switch the ball and make it hard for us to move the ball from side to side. Now, cast your minds back to the statement that their manager was making in regards to pressing in the right areas. What is the weakest area when it comes to pressing? That is the right hand side. So what they're going to be hoping to do is allowing us to play more down the right hand side, because by doing this it means that our fullback and Hazard isn't going to touch the ball as much. And we know with Hazard, he's not going to keep his positional responsibility. He's going to move inside. He's going to move towards the ball. And by doing that, that could potentially fall into the main trap that Malmo want, and that's to slow our possession football. As we've seen quite a lot of times, the ball does get congested in the middle. We really struggle to move it from side to side and switch the play. And because of this, it actually makes it easier to defend against us, because teams don't have to worry about runs in behind. All the play is directly in front of them. Now, of course, they can't hope to get something favourable from this game if they're only going to rely on defending. They are going to have a counter-attacking plan. And what could that be? Well, if we cast our minds back to games like Bournemouth and Spurs, for example, what they're hoping to do is attack the spaces down the flanks. Now, what teams like Bournemouth and Spurs did, for example, was they had their strikers really move right to the corner flag, really stretch the play. And what they're hoping to do is they want to disrupt our defensive line. As we see quite a lot of times, when Rudiger and Luiz have to leave their positions and push out wide, they're really susceptible to getting beaten. And that's because they're not the most amazing defenders when it comes to 50-50 tackling. And Malmo are going to hope to consistently attack out wide by playing a lot of direct balls that's going to bypass our press and balls over the top to stretch our defensive line. Malmo are a hard-working team. So far in Europe, they have had a very decent spell, but you might be thinking, Nini, you're making Malmo sound like they're some world-class team. Of course not. Moving on to us, how can we potentially beat them? And I think the first thing, the most important thing is scoring the first goal. If we can get the first goal, that's really going to disrupt Malmo's tactical plan, and then they get to play in our own hands. Because obviously, Malmo will have to react to the situation. Hopefully, our front line is going to press very aggressively and really close down the spaces, because, you know, I think that Malmo would really struggle to beat that first phase of our press. And obviously, what I'm trying to say is that with our front three pressing, can Malmo play through that? And if I'm going by our recent games, there's a possibility that that might happen if the application of our front players isn't on point. One thing that we need to help beat Malmo is using attacking fullbacks. Now, I'm hoping that Zappacosta might play the game tomorrow. I think that that's quite unlikely, but I'm hoping that the fullbacks are going to try and stretch the play. We know down the left hand side with Emerson, that's guaranteed to happen. If Aspie plays down the right hand side, it's not the same, but if you've got a Hudson-Odoi with Aspie, that could really help us strengthen that lack of creativity down the right hand side. But the fullbacks will be important, because when you're playing against these very defensive, compact teams, you need fullbacks to stretch your play and make lots of runs in behind, because if they do that, what they're doing is they're stretching the defensive structure of the opposition, and in turn, that frees up the half spaces. And when the half spaces are free, that gives the opportunity for the wingers or attacking players to either go 1v1 against a player, put a cross in, or play a pass between the lines. When Man City destroyed us a few days ago, that was one thing they constantly kept doing and using to great success. But really, at the end of the day, this game's gonna come down to the execution of the plan. A lot of games recently, players aren't fulfilling their part of the bargain. Constant individual errors. That Man City game really summed everything up. And sometimes there's no point really delving into the tactics if the application of the players on the day isn't going to be on point. Still though, you guys, moving on to my score prediction, I'm going for a 2-0 win over Malmo. I think that they are going to make it quite hard for us. We might struggle to create tons and tons of opportunities, but I'm hoping that the individual quality and ability of our players is going to overcome anything that Malmo can throw at us. As I said, 2-0 to us. But anyway, you guys, that's going to bring an end for today's video. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm NiniFC. This is Blue Line TV. Signing out.